Live.
Okay.
Now we're live.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Think and Grow Rich Daily Hangout. My name is Sandy Levesque, and joined today by Glenn from Nashville, Tennessee. Do you want to say hi, Glenn?
Good morning. And I
Oh,
see
and
Chico there.
yeah, exactly. We're also joined by my Cocker Spaniel, who's oh doing his grooming. Tu dis bonjour, Chico? Chico. He's he doesn't quite get the concept of a hangout, obviously. He wants to come and be like on the sofa next to me if I'm on here, so quite cute. Yeah, so yesterday we read about transmutation and again about Napoleon's favorite topic, woo-woo stuff, like actually how to connect to the ether and infinite intelligence to have have weird ideas and hunches and inspiration come in. And it was really interesting actually because he spoke about a a guy that was actually he came across him in his research, but there was a guy who was so good at this that he was paid to sit in a room and get ideas, and he completed loads of patents for people that people hadn't finished. He
Yeah.
would just get ideas, and that was his job, was um, to get the framework for how something could be done, and he completed 200 different projects.
Imagine that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because of his ability to do that. So,
And
uh,
his method of doing it too, right, was to kind of go, I think, and have a quiet spot or something like that. Much like Edison, much like Edison.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Uh, I'm just getting the page up. Uh, oh,
We, I
where is it?
think we're on
Yeah.
166 with the next page, I believe.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. For some reason, I had 195 in my mind, but we're not as far as that. 166. Oh, yeah. Okay. Whoops. Sorry, guys. Yeah. So, uh, would you be up for reading, Glenn?
Sure, I'll read Sandy.
Okay, cool. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yes, 166. Yeah.
I'll just go ahead and share and start at the top of that page, okay?
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So like Edison, like you're saying, he tried out 10,000 different combinations of ideas through the synthetic faculty of his imagination
Yes.
before he turned in through the creative faculty, which is creative is actually the is when you open up to the infinite intelligence and
Right? You kind of move above the reasoning plane in a way, right?
yeah,
That's why
exactly.
you kind of refer to it as woo woo, right? But what it is yeah, moving out of the competitive plane into the creative plane, which is that's where the geniuses operate.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
they
And if
say
it was
Mozart heard the music from the universe and just wrote it down from his brain right onto paper, right? Can you imagine?
oh, I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Imagine.
And it was actually probably not until the Enlightenment, so-called Enlightenment time, that like before, probably 700 years ago, it was very normal. This wouldn't be woo-woo at all. This would just be like a statement of facts.
Right.
But it became, people stopped believing that there was things that everything had to be seen or proven. So,
Yeah.
like that.
I've got a fascinating book I'm going to recommend when we're done with this. That I'd like you to take a look at. Uh,
Ah,
I read while I was off for a month, and I'll mention the title to you, and something that I think it really kind of stands this whole thing on its head. But
ah.
yeah, but we'll unveil that after we finish the reading, huh?
Okay, great. So the reasoning faculty, I think, is where we are.
Okay, the reasoning faculty is you can see it here. Okay.
Yeah.
The reasoning faculty is often faulty because it is largely guided by one's accumulated experience. Not all knowledge which one accumulates through experience is accurate. Ideas received through the creative faculty are much more reliable, for the reason that they come from sources more reliable than any which are available to the reasoning faculty of the mind. The major difference between the genius and the ordinary crank inventor may be found in the fact that genius works through his faculty of creative imagination, while the crank knows nothing of this faculty. The scientific inventor, such as Mr. Edison and Dr. Gates, makes use of both the synthetic and the creative faculties of imagination. For example, the scientific inventor or genius begins an invention by organizing and combining the known ideas or principles accumulated through experience through the synthetic faculty, the reasoning faculty. If he finds this accumulated knowledge to be insufficient for the completion of his invention, he then draws upon the sources of knowledge available to him through his creative faculty. The method by which he does this varies with the individual, but this is the sum and substance of this procedure, of his procedure. He stimulates his mind so that it vibrates on a higher than average plane, using one or more of the 10 mind stimulants or some other stimulant of his choice. And remember, those are the ones I think you read yesterday, Sandy. 2, he concentrates upon the known factors, the finished part of his invention, and he creates in his mind a perfect picture of unknown factors, the unfinished part of his invention. He holds this picture in his mind until it has been taken over by the subconscious mind, then relaxes by clearing his mind of all thought and waits for his answer to flash into his mind. Sometimes the results are both definite and immediate. At other times the results are negative, depending upon the state of development of the sixth sense or creative faculty. Mr. Edison tried out more than 10,000 different combinations of ideas through the synthetic faculty of his imagination before he tuned in through the creative faculty and got the answer which perfected the incandescent light. His experience was similar when he produced the talking machine. There is plenty of reliable evidence that the faculty of creative imagination exists. This evidence is available through accurate analysis of men who have become leaders in their respective callings without having had extensive educations. Lincoln was a notable example of a great leader who achieved greatness through the discovery and the use of his faculty of creative imagination. He discovered and began to use this faculty as a result of the stimulation of love, which he experienced after he met Anne Rutledge, a statement of the highest significance in connection with the study of the source of genius. The pages of history are filled with records of great leaders whose achievements may be traced directly to the influence of women who aroused the creative faculties of their minds through the stimulation of sex desire. Napoleon Bonaparte was one of these. When inspired by his first wife, Josephine, he was irresistible and invincible. When his better judgment or reasoning faculty prompted him to put Josephine aside, he began to decline. His defeat and St. Helena were not far distant. If good taste would permit, we might easily mention scores of men well known to the American people who climbed to great heights of achievement under the stimulating influence of their wives, only to drop back to destruction after money and power went to their heads and they put aside the old wife for a new one. Napoleon was not the only man to discover that sex influence from the right source is more powerful than any substitute of expediency which may be created by mere reason. The human mind responds to stimulation. Among the greatest and most powerful of these stimuli is the urge of sex. When harnessed and transmuted, this driving force is capable of lifting men or women into that higher sphere of thought, which enables them to master the sources of worry and petty annoyance which beset their pathway on the lower plane. Unfortunately, only the Jedi have made the discovery. Others have accepted the experience of sex urge without discovering one of its major potentialities, a fact which accounts for the great number of others as compared to the limited number of Jedi. For the purpose of refreshing the memory, in connection with the facts available from the biographies of certain men, we here present the names of a few men of outstanding achievement, each of whom was known to have been of a highly sexed nature. The genius was theirs, undoubtedly found in its source of power in transmuted sex energy. George Washington, Napoleon Bonaparte, William Shakespeare, Abraham Lincoln, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Robert Burns, Thomas Jefferson, Albert Hubbard, Albert H. Gary, Oscar Wilde, Woodrow Wilson, John H. Patterson, Andrew Jackson, Enrico Caruso. Your own knowledge of biography will enable you to add to this list. Find, if you can, a single man in all the history of civilization who achieved outstanding success in any calling who was not driven by a well-developed sex nature. If you do not wish to rely upon biographies of men not now living, take inventory of those whom you know to be men of great achievement, and see if you can find one among them who is not highly sexed. Sex energy is the creative energy of all Jedi. There never has been and never will be a great leader, builder, or artist lacking in this driving force of sex. Surely no one will misunderstand these statements to mean that all who are highly sexed are Jedi. Man attains to the status of genius only when and if he stimulates his mind so that it draws upon the forces available through the creative faculty of the imagination. Chief among the stimuli with which this stepping up of the vibrations may be produced is sex energy. The mere possession of this energy is not sufficient to produce a genius. The energy must be transmuted from desire for physical contact into some other form of desire and action before it will lift one to the status of a genius. Far from becoming Jedi because of great sex desires, the majority of men lower themselves through misunderstanding and misuse of this great force to the status of the lower animals. Why men seldom succeed before 40. I discovered from the analysis of over 25,000 people that men who succeed in an outstanding way seldom do so before the age of 40, and more often they do not strike their real pace until they are well beyond the age of 50. This fact was so astounding that it prompted me to go into the study of its cause, most carefully carrying the investigation over a period of more than 12 years. This study disclosed the fact that the major reason why the majority of men who succeed do not begin to do so before the age of 40 to 50 is their tendency to dissipate their energies through overindulgence and physical expression of the emotion of sex. The majority of men never learn that the urge of sex has other possibilities which far transcend in importance that of mere physical expression. The majority of those who make this discovery do so after having wasted many years at a period when the sex energy is at its height prior to the age of 45 to 50. This usually is followed by noteworthy achievement. The lives of many men up to and sometimes well past the age of 40 reflects a continued dissipation of energies which could have been more profitably turned into better channels. Their finer and more powerful emotions are sown wildly to the four winds out of this habit of the male through the term sowing his wild oats. The desire for sexual expression is by far the strongest and most impelling of all the human emotions, and for this reason, this desire, when harnessed and transmuted into action other than that of physical expression, may raise one to the status of a genius. One of America's most able businessmen frankly admitted that his attractive secretary was responsible for most of the plans he created. He admitted that her presence lifted him to heights of creative imagination such as he could experience under no other stimulus. One of the most successful men in America owes most of his success to the influence of a very charming young woman who has served as his source of inspiration for more than 12 years. Everyone knows the man to whom this reference is made, but not everyone knows the real source of his achievements. History is not lacking in examples of men who attained to the status of genius as the result of the artificial mind stimulants in the form of alcohol and narcotics. Edgar Allan Poe wrote The Raven while under the influence of liquor, dreaming dreams that mortals never dared to dream before. James Whitcomb Riley did his best writing while under the influence of alcohol. Perhaps it was thus he saw the ordered intermingling of the real and the dream, the mill above the river and the mist above the stream. Robert Burns wrote best when intoxicated. For old lang syne, my dear, will take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne. But let it be remembered that many such men have destroyed themselves in the end. Nature has prepared her own potions with which men may safely stimulate their minds so they vibrate on a plane that enables them to tune in to fine and rare thoughts which come from no man knows where. No satisfactory substitute for nature stimulants has ever been found. It's a fact well known to psychologists that there's a very close relationship between sex desires and spiritual urges, a fact which accounts for the peculiar behavior of people who participate in the orgies known as religious revivals, common among the primitive types. The world is ruled, and the destiny of civilization is established by the human emotions. People are influenced in their actions not by reason so much as by feelings. The creative faculty of the mind is set into action entirely by emotions and not by cold reason. The most powerful of all human emotions is that of sex. There are other mind stimulants, some of which have been listed, but no one of them nor all of them combined can equal the driving power of sex. A mind stimulant is any influence which will either temporarily or permanently increase the vibrations of thought. The 10 major stimulants described are those most commonly resorted to. Through these sources, one may commune with infinite intelligence or enter at will the storehouse of the subconscious mind, either one's own or that of another person, a procedure which is all there is of genius. A teacher who has trained and directed the efforts of more than 30,000 salespeople made the astounding discovery that highly sexed men are the most efficient salesmen. The explanation is that the factor of personality known as personal magnetism is nothing more or less than sex energy. Highly sexed people always have a plentiful supply of magnetism through cultivation and understanding. This vital force may be drawn upon and used to great advantage in the relationships between people. This energy may be communicated to others through the following media. The handshake. The touch of the hand indicates instantly the presence of magnetism or the lack of it. The tone of voice. Magnetism or sex energy is the factor with which the voice may be colored and made musical and charming. Posture and carriage of the body. Highly sexed people move briskly with grace and ease. The vibrations of thought. Highly sexed people mix the emotions of sex with their thoughts or may do so at will. In that way may influence those around them. Body adornment. People who are highly sexed are usually very careful about their personal appearance. They usually select clothing of a style becoming to their personality, physique, complexion, etc. When employing salesmen, the more capable sales manager looks for the quality of personal magnetism as the first requirement of salesmen. People who lack this sex energy will never become enthusiastic nor inspire others with enthusiasm. And enthusiasm is one of the most important requisites in salesmanship, no matter what one is selling. The public speaker, orator, preacher, lawyer, or salesman who is lacking in sex energy is a flop as far as being able to influence others is concerned. Couple this with the fact that most people can be influenced only through an appeal to their emotions, you will understand the importance of sex energy as a part of the salesman's native ability. Master salesmen attain the status of mastery in selling because they either consciously or unconsciously transmute the energy of sex into sales enthusiasm. In this statement may be found a very practical suggestion as to the actual meaning of sex transmutation. That's an important sentence to reread, too. Master salesmen attain the status of mastery in selling because they either consciously or unconsciously transmute the energy of sex into sales enthusiasm. In this statement may be found a very practical suggestion as to the actual meaning of sex transmutation.
I think that's a good place to stop now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You know what, Sandy? Interestingly enough, if you think about, the videos that you do and the way you come across in the videos and all that, you are transmuting your sex energy, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Yeah, what are we thinking?
And you were saying yesterday, well, you're not sure you're an expert on. I don't think you have to be an expert on it. I think you have to use it in a way that's productive, right? That's out in the world, right? That shows,
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I did some workshops quite intensely after getting ill, like personal development workshops, and I was just thinking about this because they talked about the same thing, and they had an interesting extension of Napoleon's idea. They didn't mention Napoleon Hill, but they talked about having there's like this sexuality energy and a sexualness energy.
Yes.
And they talked about how sexuality energy was like the energy where you don't transmute things and you just, it's very physical and it's like look how sexy
Yeah.
someone is, and it's very kind of there's a lot of judgment in it. It's like you judge that someone is sexy or not sexy, and it's
Yeah,
a little bit
yeah,
about
but
appearance.
see, but I think we have to when we read his book here. I think we have to overlook this thing that society does with women and all that kind of stuff. You know, about judging them and
Yeah,
beauty, and all that. We have to overlook that. We have to look at how a person is in the world. You know, like when you do your Zumba, you know, it's a very sexy thing in itself, but it's not. It isn't being done for sex purposes. It's being done because you're moving other people to
yeah,
physically become active in their life, right? So that's
yeah.
uh, it's the use, right? It's the use that's put to. That's
Yeah,
really
exactly. That's what. Because then they also talked about how this sexualness energy is when it's like the same energy but just used a bit differently. It's like when you're present and you notice like the breeze of the trees, or you feel the sun on your skin, and
yeah.
you notice the feel of the earth underneath your feet when you're out in the garden, or
Yeah, you're engaged. You're engaged with the world, right? I think.
exactly, you're present and you're conscious to it all, and that when you are, you actually just start to get more energy because you can receive more energy from everything around you, as
Yes.
opposed to when you're just kind of you only think that energy comes. Yeah, that was it. Because they would say like a lot of people think the only time you can get that kind of energy is when you're actually copulating with someone,
Yeah.
and what if actually you can
Not
have that energy from the nature, from animals, and it's just like an
from
energy
music,
of life.
wonderful music. You know, listening to Mozart. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, right? I mean, think of all the things that we interact with that draws on our sexual energy, right?
yeah.
Think of it.
Exactly. It's like the energy of life, basically. It's not just about, and I think this is what Napoleon's getting at, using some just different words, and how you can, when you realize that, you can actually just start to have, like when I realized that, I just started to have way more energy. I used to have a lot less
Yeah.
energy um, and get tired really easily, and that doesn't really happen as much anymore, you know. Unless I've
Ah,
been up for like 20 hours. um, but yeah, and something funny I wanted to add to, and I'd love to know what the book was that you were going to talk about, Glenn, as well.
oh, you want me to talk about that now? It's called "Why Quantum Physicists Do Not Fail." It's by a guy called Greg Kuhn, and I got it on Kindle. I think I only paid like $5.99 for it or something like that. And when I was in California, I said, "Well, I'm going to read this and just see what they're talking about." And of course, I studied physics. You know, that's what I got my bachelor's in. And I never went on for higher degrees because I didn't. I had a family, working, and everything like that. I couldn't do it. You know, so
Yeah.
but I did get to study quantum mechanics during part of my study in physics. And so this book says why quantum physicists do not fail. But it stands things on its head a little bit. Even in our personal development world, it gives you a totally different frame of reference for looking at uh, personal development. And it isn't out of step either with this book, with Think and Grow Rich. But it just adds a different dimension of thinking, and see if you can get it and start reading it, and then we'll talk about it too a little bit as we go, because
Oh,
there
yeah, I
are
just wrote it down on my
powerful
list.
things,
Yeah.
in that. Now tonight I'm
Ah.
going to try this to watch Wallace and I mean W.E. I think I'm going to try to
Oh, yeah.
on Amazon. I think.
Excellent. I'm watching that this weekend as well.
Yeah.
And there's another film. Oh,
And
yeah.
now that's sex transmutation there too, right? And,
Yeah.
she had that desire, and but it wasn't overtly. Well, we'll have to see the movie, I think, right, to
Yeah.
see if there's any sexual episodes in it, But
Yeah. Well,
uh, yes,
and it's funny because and something that I wanted to share quickly is it was really funny actually after doing yesterday's hangout, reading about the genii and connecting to the ether and infinite intelligence. I watched a hangout later on that day, or I listened to it. I was doing some other work, but it was with there was a young British guy who's only 22, and he's become very successful. So I was thinking of him when he was saying that most people only become
Yeah.
successful after 40, but that
Yeah.
wasn't the point.
There are exceptions.
Yeah, exactly. But and this guy has been an entrepreneur since he was 12 years old, and
Wow.
he's just very. I really. I mean, he's British, and I just really liked the way he described everything. It was quite funny, but something he said really inspired me, and that was that he was talking about success and how when you're not having success with something, it feels like you're pushing up against a hill. You know, you're pushing water up a hill, and
Yeah.
it's kind of tough, and you're working all the time, and then suddenly he says when you get to sort of this point, and what you're doing starts to work, it tips, and suddenly it's easier, and suddenly then it gets even easier. Like you actually need less work to do to create
To
even
get
more
more
results.
results. Yeah.
And what he said was, and this was the part that got my attention, that that there's always something, whatever you're doing, that will help you to do that, like a holy grail, a sweet spot, like a sweet. He was talking in relation to the internet, like a particular method or a strategy,
Yeah.
but you can apply this to anything. And it got me thinking, well, you can ask the universe, say, or God, or infinite intelligence, what is the what's the holy grail for me? What's the one thing that if I master it is going to have that same result? Like what's the because he described how he got the idea for it, and he said it was like the biggest light bulb
Yeah.
moment he'd ever had in his life, and it just went bing, and when he did it, it worked, and I just thought that was a great example of he received an idea from out there, and it was probably his synthetic imagination as well, but
Yeah.
when he did
But
it,
yes, but yeah, so what he had done is he had moved into the creative plane and he grabbed an idea that was already there, right? It
yeah,
was already there, it was there, and he
exactly.
just brought it in, and then that became his thing.
Yeah, yeah. So I was thinking you can combine that with what we're reading about at the moment. If
Yeah.
you guys are watching, you know, whatever you're doing, whether it's campaigning or dance instruction or online stuff, or you're a
Yeah,
physicist,
whatever you're
making
leading.
an
Yeah.
invention, ask
Yeah.
ask like explicitly ask the universe or God to give you that insight into the thing that will make it work. Like because
Yeah.
what is interesting in what you read just now, Glenn, is Napoleon talks about Edison and how the 10,000 times it was from his synthetic imagination, from his brain, and it was
Right.
actually just like this crazy idea that came in that was the successful one.
Yeah, finally
Like the creative
pushed
imagination.
him over
So
the top, right over the top. And
yeah,
the other thing, when I was in California, I had a lot of time to reflect about our visits on Think and Grow Rich. And one of the things that in my mind was that boy, Sandy should be doing what Mary Morrissey and Bob Proctor are doing, and that is speaking in front of large groups of people, motivating them because remember, 95% of the people don't take to this stuff, right? So
yeah.
so such a large group of people out there that really I think, want to move forward too in their lives. So it's
Oh,
something that I had in my brain. I could visualize you doing that. And it's funny when you mentioned your dream. That was one of the things you said is that you were on your way. You were in a VIP lounge. You're on your way to a talk at a large.
that's true, actually.
Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting? I mean, I think I'd already kind of had that formulating in my mind. Isn't that funny?
Oh. Oh, thank you. Partners in believing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
funny that I had already kind of started working on that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I just love I love the effect of when you see people's perspective change, or people tell you that what you said helped them in some way. And I spoke in front of large groups when I was campaigning, and and that was what would happen. We would speak about our campaign, and afterwards people would be like, "Wow, I didn't know this. I didn't realize that," and
Yeah,
it opened my mind, and thank you.
yeah,
And so now it'd be great to harness that in a positive way, because at the time that was very much like this is a problem. We need to do this, and
Yeah, right,
did you
right.
know that da da da? Did you know that this many women are da da da? So yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's
Well, I can see you doing that because you're so gifted and generous. You're such a generous spirit that will move the world forward. That's the way I see it.
oh, thank you. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, and that's why I just love what we're doing with the Hangouts because it helps. Each time we read it, there's something new. It's just I really feel like it connects me to the book and everyone who's part of it as well. Do you remember when Ulla? Oh, I shouldn't say the name, but when a lady wrote and said that something you had said, Glenn, had helped her with giving birth to her son. Like
Yes,
there's
yeah, that was thrilling. That was a wonderful. That was a gift from her too, wasn't it?
yeah, it really was to tell us
That was
that.
a gift.
It's amazing. I had
Yeah.
a message actually from, I don't think you saw her very much because she had to stop participating probably around the time you started coming on the Hangouts. But there was a lady called Jackie who was on all the time in New York.
Oh,
And
Jackie. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember Jackie
you
quite a
do
bit.
remember Jackie? Oh, great. Yeah, she sent a message actually to me. And hey, Jackie, if you're watching the replay, saying that she really missed us all and that she missed being on the Hangouts.
Yeah, we missed her too. And I chatted with Susanna the other day, Susanna Soderstrom. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and we just chatted online a little through Messenger a little bit on Facebook. And
Cool.
so
Yeah.
she's working on Simpleology still, which I am too. I'm using that, and
Ah.
he's already a green belt, I think, or something like that. So she's way up there.
Yeah.
And so she's doing
Oh, that
that.
reminds me actually. Thanks for that reminder. That today's Friday, so I'm going to post in the Facebook group a habit of the month post, and it's September now, so I know that my habit is something I've been putting off for a while. I'm actually going to start. I think you mentioned you were going to do this at one point, Glenn. I would like to. I'm actually going to start. I'm not going. I'm going to change my wording. I don't want to like. I'm actually doing it. I'm going to start talking with my special advisors before I go to sleep. You know how Napoleon described.
Yes.
Actually, in the next chapter
Wonderful.
we're going to read on the sixth sense. I
Yeah.
just get the sense I should really do that. I've had that sense for a while now, and I haven't acted on it. So that's
Yeah.
going to be my habit for this month to
Well, I
actually
think
start
that's
doing that.
that's a great habit. That's a great habit to develop. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I feel like they're kind of uh, already there and want to be heard. So it sounds kind of strange, but do you have an idea what your habit of the month will be, Glenn?
Well, I have been working on Simpleology for a while, and I pretty well wrapped up my decluttering thing around the 1st of August or so. Uh, and so now I'm still working on the Dream Builder development thing with Mary Morrissey, and that's a workbook that I'm involved in, along with tapes and things like that. So I've been continuing working on that. Um, and mostly those two areas there. And I
Cool.
use Simpleology to keep me kind of straight on business and things like that, so it helps a lot.
Right. Yeah.
Focusing helps in focusing.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, I'll put the post in the group and then people can share. And we had a message from um, Mr. Crazy. I'm not sure. So, hello, which is okay. So I'm just saying, okay. Hello. Cool. So, well, thanks everyone. Thank you so much for reading, Glenn.
You're welcome, and have an enjoyable weekend, Sandy, and check into that book.
Yes, I will. Yeah, I think I'm going to get that. Yeah, I'll.
Let,
Well, I will get it. Yeah, I put it
let
on
me
my list
know.
now.
Let me
So,
know online or something. Let me know through Messenger or something like that if you get it and started or something.
okay. Yeah.
Be
I will
interesting.
do. I'm going to watch the Wallace Simpson film as well. So cool. Have a great weekend, Glenn, and
You.
back on Monday. See you guys. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.